everyone, and welcome to the July Advocacy Cafe chat. My name is Emily Taylor. I'm the Vice President of Advocacy and Engagement here at Solve M.E, and I'm so pleased for this special Advocacy Cafe chat this month on appropriations to be joined by BG Wright from Thornton Partners. Hi, BG.
Hi, thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us. So I'm so pleased to begin this chat with a couple questions. This interview portion will begin, and then again after the interview is over, we will turn off the recording and off the cameras, and we'll have a conversation with all of you. So we're really looking forward to your questions and comments at the end. So to begin, BG, welcome. Would you like to share a little bit about yourself?
I'm a retired Army colonel. I was fortunate during my Army career to get a fellowship on the Hill with the Senate Appropriations Committee. Then after I retired from the Army, I was offered a position on the committee, and I went there and I stayed with the Senate Appropriations Committee for 7.5 years, and then the House Appropriations Committee for another 12.5, for a total of 20 years and 1 month on the Appropriations Committees. So I'm in my third career, I guess. And I have decided when I started this third career that I would only accept clients that I believed in their cause. And this is certainly the epitome of what I wanted to do in this third career, is help an organization that has a wonderful, caring, well thought out cause. And so I'm honored to be working with Solve M.E.
Oh, thank you, BG. We're so honored and happy to have you. You have been a critical part of our appropriations effort for the last 3 years. And I'm so thrilled to share a little bit about what that looks like for the folks who don't get to see what you and I do a lot of every day. So I guess my first question for you is, I think a lot of people understand that there's a federal budget every year and the appropriations process has something to do with it, but they don't really know what that looks like. So
Yeah.
if you would take a moment to just share, what is the appropriations process and how does it contribute to the budget every year?
Well, I'm glad to talk about this. Now, it might be a little schoolhouse rock for some of you that understand this already, but just in case, bear with me. But every year, the president sends up a budget request to Capitol Hill, to the committees, and that's put together by all the departments. Department of Defense, Department of Interior, Department of Labor, Health and Human Services, Education. All of these departments put together their own funding request. Their request goes from their department to the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, and they review it, and then it gets the president's seal of approval. Then it's sent to Capitol Hill, where it reaches the appropriations committees, and there's 12 of those, and I mentioned a few of them just a second ago. The ones we've been working most closely with in the last few years is the Defense Subcommittee and the Labor, Health and Human Services Subcommittee, more on the Health and Human Services side of that. So what happens is this budget comes up, and it's huge, and it has everything in the world in it. Well, you say, how do you review, for defense at least, how do you review an $860 billion budget? That's a lot of money that is requested, and so here's how it's done. They have people like me. I worked there, like I said, I worked there for 20 years, that are called professional staff members, and these people are generally not partisan folks who just understand the bill and what the request is and what their general areas are. One of the areas that I had for 10 years on the committee was DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. It's very interesting, all the science and research that goes on there. That was just one of many. And in my portfolio, I had a $60 billion portion of that. So about a dozen people on the House and about the same on the Senate review this, and they do it quite well and quite efficiently because they've done it for so many years, and they know when numbers go up and numbers go down. So they take a look at this, and then when they do give it this in-depth look, and we know how much money there is to spend that year, then we go to the chairman and ranking member of that subcommittee and make our recommendations. The staff, the committee staff, professional staff does. And then the chairman might ask a few questions, make recommendations himself, and we go back and tweak it a little bit, but then you come up with this final product. Then that final product goes to through a few hoops. Subcommittee is the first one, and that's just all the folks that sit on that subcommittee. So if it's defense, you've got 14 members that sit on the defense subcommittee, and they all have their chance to put in their 2 cents. Then it goes to full committee, which is the full appropriations committee. And there's about 57 or 8 people that sit on that subcommittee, on that full committee. And everyone gets a shot at, at this. Assuming it passes there, then it goes to the House floor. And then you've got 435 folks that have their chance to talk about it, amend it, whatever. And then on the Senate side, it's very similar on a smaller scale, but then there's 100 over there, 100 members over there that get to talk about it and decide what they want to change. So this all comes together. The House gets their version, the Senate gets their version. This year, they're going to both be very different on every bill. The House is controlled by Republicans, the Senate is controlled by Democrats. They have a huge varying perception of what they need and want. So taking those two together and mashing them together is called conference. And it's a major staff drill to make all their bosses happy, and it's hard. And it'll be really hard this year. But then it happens, and then one house of Congress votes on it, then the other does. Usually it's the House and then the Senate. And if they both approve it, sent to the president for signature and becomes law. Whew. So how long does that take? Well, the budget request usually comes the first Friday in February. So that's when the staff starts doing their work on this. And when does it get done? Well, it should be finished by the end of the fiscal year, which is September 30th. That rarely happens, or has rarely happened in the last 15 years. So what happens is either we have a government shutdown on September 30th if Congress doesn't pass a law that will extend funding, but they have something called a continuing resolution, which means that the departments can continue to fund their programs at the same level pro rata as the prior year. So that keeps them going. Now, this year, Congress has added another little tweak with the debt limit ceiling in order to push the appropriations bills out the door and get them approved. Within the debt ceiling is a provision that requires that all these bills have to be finished before December 1st, or they receive a 1% reduction across the board. So if you're talking about the defense appropriations bill, it's $860 billion, right? So you get a 1% reduction to that, somebody's going to be a loser, and it's not good. So their goal this year is to get all this done by December 1st. Well, they might extend it to 31st, but nevertheless, if it's not done, they get a 1% reduction. So, it's a long process, and it's a difficult process, but people that do this process have done it for years, and they know how it works. So there's that.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, BG. That is really informative and really helpful to understand all the different pieces and all the different people that touch the budget in some way that eventually ends up being what the government funds. So
Right.
in that kind of magical process that you just described, where do organizations like Solve M.E, where do we fit in? And how can we be effective when we're using the appropriations process to try to get good policy done?
Right. Well, what people like Solve M.E does, and we're happy to be their advocacy unit here in DC. We start early. So whether we're currently in fiscal year 2024, because what we're deciding now will fund things from October 1st until the next September 30th. So it's actually mostly in fiscal year 24. So this coming October, we'll start thinking about what we want to do, what our efforts are for fiscal year 25. So we start early. It's not one of these things you can pop up a week before the budget arrives and say, "Oh, I want to do this," because you've killed a lot of time already. So what we do is we determine between our team and Emily and her team, we determine what's achievable. There's no need to go to the Hill with goals that are unachievable. And so we have to do something. We have to advocate for something that's realistic, that we think is achievable. So that's the first thing. Then we pull together information about this, and we create a one-page document. And why is it a one-page document? Because it's easy to carry, it's easy to read. If you give somebody 10 pages, they're going to read the first 3 and lay it down. But if it's all on one page, generally a human attention span will allow you to read one page. So we create this very well thought out, very concise, very detailed one-page document, and we agree on it. I mean, Solve agrees that this is what they want to advocate for. We agree that it's positioned well and it's written well, and that this is how we're going to go. Then we don't deviate from it. The minute we deviate from this paper, we've lost, because if Emily goes in one direction and you, those folks on the call that are their advocates for Solve M.E, go in another direction, say, well, this is what Solve wants, but this is really what we need. That doesn't work, because we all have to be on the same sheet of music, and hopefully we always are. Then we build advocates, and advocates are staff members, members themselves, committee staff members, and we try to make sure that each of these persons understand what it is we're asking for and why it's important. We've done a very good job at that, and I'll circle back to that in just a second. But as hard as the committee staff works, these dozen people on the defense bill that adjudicates $860 billion, they can't add things into the bill or the report without member support. So we go out and we'll canvass, at least on the House side, 40 members that we think are advocates for this. And then, we get them behind it, sometimes more than 40. But what our hope is that when it comes time for their submission of their member request list to the Appropriations Committee, that we're within that list. And we have been, and we're fortunate and we're thankful for that. So members put this in, and that gives that staff member, when he goes to the chairman of that Appropriations Committee, ammunition. He says, look, I've got 30 members asking for this. Now, do you want to leave it out? Because I don't want to. So that's how we get, we build our little case of ammunition for the committee staff to use with their boss. Then it goes through the process, which we talked about previously. The subcommittee, full committee, House floor, same thing on the Senate floor. Then they go through. But during all this time, we're there. Emily's there. Her team's there. Our team's there to answer questions. We maintain contact. We monitor the process as it goes through the committees until it is signed by the president. Then sometimes, even after it's signed by the president and becomes law, we have to follow up to make sure that it's actually implemented. And that is another part. So this is a big job, and hopefully we do it well. In fact, should I jump on Emily now and tell them about what we've done well?
Yeah, that's a great time. So my next question to you is going to be, could you talk a little bit more about the victory that we shared 2 weeks ago, and kind of give it some context now that we understand where all this process came from? How did this victory come about, and what does it mean?
Absolutely. Well, this isn't the first time we've had this victory, and hopefully it won't be the last. But at least in the defense bill, we have advocated for special language that would keep the long COVID and ME/CFS at the forefront for the Department of Defense. Now, here's Emily's got on the screen here some of this very language, but what we've been able to do is to get a call out. Now, when I say a call out, so let's say that there are 40 afflictions that are named in congressionally directed medical research program. Well, when those 40 things are in there, then you just get mixed in with all of it like the batter, right? But in the last 2 years, we've been able to get a special call out, a special paragraph of just in the same page as all the other things, but it's ours alone that says, and it's right there on the left, long COVID and mild encephalomyelitis and chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, that's important. And why is that important? Because when this gets to the Department of Defense, they're going to say, wait a minute, they got a list over here of 40 things, but this is the one that they mention. It's a very rare call out. And I tell you what, it was only achieved through relationship building and explaining the problem and going with it. And we're very, very lucky to have gotten that. In addition to this, we were able to get funding, and you can see that there on the right, from combat readiness, medical research, and then another program that has a total of $370 million divided by many afflictions, but we get a portion of that too. That's called the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program, or you might hear it referred to as CDMRP. It's an acronym. So we've been very, very fortunate, but it's not luck. It's planning, it's skill, it's relationship building, and we do all that, and we do all that all year long, and then we get a victory again, which is great. We've gotten also very similar victories in the labor age bill, labor health and human services bill, and on both House and Senate. Now this requires talking to 60, 70 people, and staying up all night and doing papers and making sure they're right and bouncing them around and getting them to the right places and timing, and your pace has to be good, and you know, when do I call this staff member and talk to them? Oh, no, today's not a good time because they're doing this. So you have to know all these things. You have to play this whole game and understand, you know, how to time it just right. We've been very fortunate, and we've done quite well.
Well, and I have to say, a big part of those that guidance and those victories is thanks to you, BG, who have been a critical part of this process the past few years, and the friends at Thorn Run Partners. We are so grateful and continue to work with you. With that, thank you again for your time. It's so great to hear about all this work, both from the DC side and here at the Solve M.E side, and it's such a pleasure to continue working with you. Any last thoughts you'd like to share with our folks about Solve M.E, about the appropriations process, or our defense victories?
Absolutely. One last thing is you should know what we stand for. Know what Solve M.E stands for and what their goals are. And then when you have an opportunity, you know, drop a letter to your member of Congress, or if you see one of them, tell them, you know, so that lets them know. So we have an event here, and you probably all know about it. It's called Advocacy Week, which Solve M.E puts together, and we help and participate in. And you come to DC and look your members or your staff face to face and say, this is what we need. And it matters because you're the constituent, and they want to do what helps people in their constituency. So you got to think about it. You know, in the House side, it takes 730,000 people to elect one member. That's a lot. So, you know, they're there for a reason. Some of them are a little crazy, but they're there for a reason. Right. But no, so that's what you can do. Just remember, know what you're writing about. If you need any help, reach out to Solve M.E. They can send you a couple papers. And Emily's like, oh, more.
All the papers. Oh, I love the papers.
Yeah, but you know, it explains what we're trying to do. So good luck.
Wonderful.
Go out and talk to your members of Congress.
Absolutely. Well, here. Thank you so much, BG. It's been such a pleasure to interview and to have this chat about the appropriations process. With that, we'll transition to the second part of our program. But for those of you watching online, thank you for joining us. You can always learn more at solveme.org/advocacy. Thank you again for your time, and have a great day.